Ave Legion and welcome to my channel. My name is Ludi and today we're going to do our EU4 Rassids starting moves guide. And this guide will be going over the estates and economy, diplomacy and rivals, missions, as well as the Arabic wars and forming Yemen and your later expansion and ideas. If we manage to get this video to 1,000 likes, I'm also going to do a Butua starting moves guide. When discussing the estates, the first thing you want to do is summon the diet and go for whichever agenda best suits you, followed up by waiting for a little bit because we actually cannot seize land since we have pretended rebels in our country. The privileges that we'll be giving to the amirs are the right of council, supremacy over the crown, and the monopoly on livestock. For the dhimmis, we'll give the promote the dhimmi nobles. Ulema will get the oversight by the ulema and the monopoly on wool, and the free enterprises for the merchants guild. We're also going to be giving the expansion of zealotry for the ulema after we finish our initial two wars against Miklaf and Najran, as it is going to help us against heretical nations such as Yemen and the other nations to the south and north of us. But until that time, Miklaf and Najran are actually the same religion as us, so we don't need it for now. Trade-wise, you start off in the Gulf of Aden, and you don't really have much of a trade situation, to be fair. You can start sending your extra merchants here to collect a little bit to give you a bit more of a boost, and the other merchant will use them later on once we expand, as for the time being, we don't have the trade range to do anything anywhere. Take note that after our initial expansion, we are going to have a significantly better situation from a trade point of view, as we have quite a few coffee provinces and incense provinces to the south of us. Pretty much the whole coastline here is incense, and incense is quite decent, especially since it gives the trade value modifier plus 10%, whilst coffee gives a flat 3 ducats, which is great. Not to mention, we have in the province of Muka the coffee arabica, which gives local goods produced plus 3, thus you start off with 4 goods almost from the very beginning in this one province. When it comes to your rivals, make sure that you rival Miklaf together with Najran as your first two rivals, and as your third rival, it really depends on whether you want to expand into Aden, Hadramut, or even in Yemen first, and it can be highly situational based on the alliances that will be happening at the start after the first month passes. Speaking of alliances, it is going to be very hard for you to get an alliance as you are a Shia nation in a sea of Sunnis, but if you improve relations with the Karakoyunlus or Shirvan as well as Bahmanis, you can get some alliances later down the line. My recommendation is to improve with Shirvan, as Shirvan is part of the Shia faith and they also have the Jafari school that gives you a boost to relations actually, and if you manage to invite the Jafari school into your country, then you're going to get shock damage plus 10%, which mixes amazing with your own shock damage received minus 10% as you are one of the Zaidi followers. Rassids also starts off as a feudal theocracy, which means that you get the bonuses from it, namely a missionary and missionary strength together with tolerance of the true faith and a bit more of governing capacity, but most importantly, you get the government interactions that can give you minus 15% construction costs, minus 20% dev costs, as well as sanction holy war on every single neighboring heretical or heathen provinces. The Rassids surprisingly have their very own mission tree. They have 3 unique missions alongside the generic mission tree here. So the first mission, basically you need to have 1 general and 100% force limit, and you get permanent claims on the entire Yemeni and Hadramut area, followed up by the next 2 missions. After you've taken the south, you get some military admin points and some prestige, and after you've taken the other part of Yemen, you get some more military admin and prestige. It's not amazing, but it is what it is. The Rassids are a great nation, however, not because of their missions, but because of their national ideas. They start with national manpower plus 20% and infantry combat ability plus 10, and can get fort defense plus 20%. They can unlock morale of armies plus 10, goods produced plus 10%, global trade power plus 10, shock damage received minus 15, with together with their other shock damage received minus 10 means they get minus 25% shock damage received, and they also get land leader shock plus 1 and trade efficiency plus 10. It is vital that as the Rassids you keep the Rassid ideas after you form Yemen, so do remember that. One of the very first things we're going to do is debase our currency once, as even though we get 2 corruption, we have our government interaction that lowers the corruption by 2, so we have 0 corruption, and we managed to get a bit of income here that will sustain us in the first 2 wars. We're also going to be hiring the free company in the province of Sana, and we're also going to be hiring a general so that we fulfill our mission here. Hopefully we get a wow, that's a 3 siege pip to the general, so that's pretty great. I was expecting a 1 siege pip. After you've built to your force limit, you can get both of the initial 2 missions, which basically means you can start attacking your neighbors instantly as soon as 11th of December strikes. You can ignore the pretender army for now. We actually should be focusing on the neighboring 2 nations rather than the pretenders at the very start. Start by attacking whichever of these 2 neighbors here are going to be easier to defeat. So for example, they've allied Dongola as well as Mushasha. That means that you're gonna win this, but you might have to fight your way into the land of Dongola or Mushasha or whichever allies they might have in order to peace them out. Alternatively, you can just sit on them for 5 years and you can peace them out afterwards, but you don't need to wait for that long. You can just attack their allies also. Start your wars here and make sure you take out their armies as soon as you can. Take note that you will not be getting a permanent claim on Najran as well, so you have to actually manually start building a spy network and get the claim on there before you attack them. Once that is done, go ahead and conquer Najran. Alternatively, if you don't want to conquer them now, you can go for the humiliation CB and enforce show of strength, which gives you 100 of each mana points if you really want to go down that path. I personally prefer to unify this area faster so that I grow my strength for future wars. Be on the lookout for whenever your enemies here are not going to have a good situation. For example, Yemen is an easy target now, as both of their allies are not going to be joining in against me, since they are both at war and are either losing or just not in the mood to join the war in the defense of Yemen. So if that's the case, attack Yemen. Even if you cannot finish this war now because you're still sieging something else, focus at one thing at a time. Let the Yemenis come towards you and attack them whenever you get the chance. Do prioritize sieging down the northern part so you can peace those countries out first. Also, keep an eye out for whatever allies your enemies have. If they have situations such as this one where they're getting issues with rebels, you can peace them out, which means that you can actually peace out your enemy as well. So we're gonna peace out Miklaf because their ally decided not to help them out, and we have a horrible heir as well. Apparently we're gonna fully annex Miklaf, and that's gonna boost us up a little bit. Same time, Mushasha might be a little bit of a problem as they're not gonna exit this war anytime soon, so this war is gonna take a little bit longer, but still prioritize taking Najran, as Najran is a fort, so it's basically gonna defend your border in the northern part against anyone who wants to join in against you. It is vital that you also take advantage of weakened enemies here. So Hadramut here got almost instantly wiped out by their friends and neighbors Mahra, which means that I can attack them, and because they are my rival, I am going to use the humiliation CB in a very short and quick war in which I am going to get 300 mana points at the end of the war. Be careful when you're dealing with Yemen. They have quite a few troops, and aside from the troops, the problem is they normally retreat in the province of Taiz, which is a mountain fort as it is their capital, so you don't want to be fighting them there in a defensive battle. You want to make sure that they get out of there and you can fight them in favorable terrain. So now that they left the province of Taiz, we're gonna attack them in the province of Zabid, which is actually owned by us, and if we manage to keep this until the attack, then we get the defender bonus. But even if we don't, we still have superior troops to the Yemenis, as long as we don't fight in mountain provinces, of course. Whilst they're retreating, you have your chance to wipe them out also, so take that into consideration whenever you're attacking and whenever you decide where to fight your battles and how to fight them. Stack wiping the Yemenis is going to be really easy for you afterwards to just completely obliterate the rest of the nation and just basically carpet siege them. Still, do not worry about pretender rebels, as they likely will not attack the fort in Sana and just dodge in between your provinces most of the times. After you've managed to finish most of the battles against your enemies, that's when you should take care of the pretender rebels, not before, as you don't want to lose your manpower against pretender rebels when you have bigger fish to fry around you. Peace out your enemies whenever you can and take as much money as you need to take from them. You shouldn't be going into any debt as long as you've taken the debased currency at the start, and as long as you're fast enough with your wars. If you're not fast enough, don't stress about it too much. You're still gonna be pretty much okay. Make sure you core up everything, and if you have too much war exhaustion, remember to lower the war exhaustion prior to the coring of lands. And still, if Najran's bigger allies are not peacing out, wait until they get into some wars or until they get tired of the war. No need to actually go physically all the way to the other side of the world to peace them out. Also, it can happen that Aden or any one of your other enemies here might become a bit more of a nuisance than you like it to be. If that's the case, be ready to preemptively attack them. My case here, I am actually going to go to war with Aden because it's going to be easy taking out their army early on in the game. You have a core on Aden actually, so use your core so that you can get less aggressive expansion from this war. And just in case their allies do not have stronger allies you can co-belligerate, in my case they have actually strong allies, so I'm not going to do that. Remember to focus on one army at a time and to focus on your objectives whenever you're fighting wars against larger opponents. Peace out Najran and make it a full core, and afterwards, after you have to peace out Aden or Mara, whichever you attack first, peace out their co-belligerated friend and take as much land as you can. Even if they're not co-belligerated and you take a little bit extra aggressive expansion, it is worth it, especially with Mara. Take the island that they have here so you actually can expand into the African Horn of Africa, thus opening a lot more opportunities for you to expand into from the early game, since now we can get claims on all of these lands because of the sea tile connection. After you peace out the co-belligerated or non-co-belligerated ally, peace out the main war target, check out your coalition map mode first. If it's too many nations joining that coalition, you might want to wait for a little bit longer. Even waiting for 1 or 2 years is going to help you out a lot, as you don't want to have a massive coalition, so you might just want to sit on it for a little bit. Remember to core up all of the newly added lands. It shouldn't be too expensive, but it is going to bring you down when it comes to admin points at the start, so that means you're probably not going to be getting the admin tech for anytime soon. After a couple more years, we can now peace out Aden without a massive coalition, considering that 3 of these nations are going to be having a truce with us, and the other 3 nations cannot just declare the coalition by themselves. So with Aden in our firm grasp here, that means that we can do our beautiful second mission here of conquer Lower Yemen and conquer the Upper Yemen. Boosting us up quite a little bit means we can also get new rivals completely. Obviously go for Hormuz together with Ajuran and Adal, as we are going to be expanding of course in all 3 of these directions. Do remember, if you did co-belligerate Mara, you will be able to take the whole nation. Personally, I was not able to co-belligerate it, which is why I managed to only take most of it without the main capital that they had here. That being said, make sure that by this time you also give the monopoly of incense, which you should have plenty of, as well as give the expansion as zealotry, so you get the extra morale versus heretics. You should also be able to get the exclusive trade rights at this point, and go ahead and give that out for the development reduction cost together with the mercantilism and the monopoly on textiles. With the money you got from the wars, you can pay off your loans, and despite still being on the negative, we are going to be getting our money from our neighbors here. So start getting claims on your neighbors, especially Dawasir is a super easy target. Don't forget to also seize land. Make sure you have above 50 loyalty with every one of your estates, otherwise you can have issues with that. After you've cored up all of the lands that you took and you've pacified the nation, go ahead and unite Yemen. Make sure once you do unite that you do not accept their tradition and ambitions. You go ahead and say no thank you, because you want to keep your Rassids ideas, which are superior to the Yemeni ones in many ways. This means that you change your missions here. You're going to have the Shield of Islam, Holy City, and Production Leader missions that Yemen has. In the meanwhile, go ahead and take claims on Dawasir and Hormuz, depending on which one is going to be your target. This is situational, so it's going to be up to you. Also, go ahead and take claims on Ajuran and whatever other nations might exist in this area that you can have an easy expansion path into. My situation, it was Dawasir, and I am going to attack Dawasir. I'm also going to co-belligerate Oman since they do not have any other allies, and I am going to go to war. Dawasir should not pose any threat. You remember that you have insanely overpowered troops from the start, and if you manage to get the extra shock damage from the other school of thought, it's going to be a piece of cake. Peace out, Oman, and if you manage to co-belligerate them, I suggest that you actually vassalize them and even force your religion on them, or keep them as a body if you want to change your religion to a body. Remember to also take as much money as you can, and watch out for the coalition. If it's not too big, it is absolutely okay to vassalize them, as they have a ton of wars on the Hormuz land, so you can just attack Hormuz after this war and feed your brand new vassal the cores that they have. When it comes to Dawasir itself, completely wipe them out. It's not going to be a massive deal. If you need to wait for 1 or 2 years, or in my case for 3 months, it's not too much to wait for, as taking out Dawasir and having their lands means that we get brand new expansion opportunities into the center of the Arabic Peninsula, into Najd, as well as Hassa and Hormuz from the other side. Remember to also improve relations with your brand new vassal Oman, and there you go, the coalition is basically the nation of Yas Queen. Core up all the newly added lands and get ready for your brand new invasion here. When discussing your later expansion, of course, expand into the Hormuz area, and if you get the Omani vassal, you should have an easy time feeding them back their cores. If you didn't get the Omani vassal, try to get the Omani vassal, or if not, just directly take the lands from Hormuz. Similarly, take out the Najdi, Shamari, and Hassa, as it is going to be easy to deal with them. The hard part is going to be dealing with the Mamluks. You should deal with the Mamluks after you've unified the Arabic Peninsula under your flag, and you've also started establishing yourself in the African parts. So after you finish taking out all of these parts here, you can also expand into the Timurids lands if the Timurids got messed up over by their vassals. If they didn't, however, focus your attention on the African parts, get your claims, and start expanding down the coastline here all the way to the sweet gold mines, so you can fuel your expansions with the African gold. At the same time, attack Adal and Ethiopia so you can get the more gold mines from the Ethiopian parts and from Kaffa, and after you're strong enough, attack Mamluks. Alternatively, you can wait until the Ottomans attack Mamluks, and you can just jump on the bandwagon when that happens. That being said, I don't recommend you take on the Mamluks early on, because they are considerably more powerful than you are, so you don't want to have to deal with that. It's not going to end well for you. When discussing the ideas that you should go for, I recommend going for religious ideas first as the Rassids, as you are going to be the only only Shia nation in this area, or if you switch on over to Ibadi, you're going to be the only Ibadi nation in pretty much the whole world, unless somehow Mazab survives. And that means you have a free casus belli on everybody in the world. Now you might be thinking you already have that from your government type, right? True, but religious ideas doesn't just come with the CB, it also comes with the tools that you need to convert people, because you're going to get extra missionaries and missionary strength, which you definitely will need, as you will need the missionary maintenance costs to keep the costs down and the other benefits that come with it. If you're struggling with admin points, and that is going to be very likely, then you will not be able to go for religious ideas first. So if that's the case, I recommend that you go for quantity ideas first and religious as your second idea if you have extra military points lying around. And as a third idea, I recommend going for trade ideas, not economic, simply because you're going to be benefiting a lot more from taking charge of the various trade nodes connecting Asia to Europe. What I mean by this is that if you manage to stop the trade from India into the Basra and Persian nodes, similarly if you stop the trade from going into the Alexandrian areas or going into the African areas, you have the potential of having a massive amount of gold just from your trade income. Remember to also send your secondary merchant that you start off with to transfer trade in the Gulf of Aden from Ethiopia after you get the trade range. Later on, you can also go for economic to completely boost your economy, or you can even go for exploration if you want to explore and colonize the Malaccan, a rich trade area, together with Australia and parts of Africa before the Europeans do, thus completely ruining the economy of most of Europe, which will help you in the late game. Thank you guys for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, consider liking and subscribing, would help me out so much. Also, if we get this video to 1,000 likes, I'm gonna do a starting moves guide on the nation of Butua. Also want to give a very big thank you to all of my patrons and channel members. Thank you so much guys for all the support you've been offering me. I wouldn't be anywhere without you, so if anybody else wants to check my Patreon or become a channel member, then you can check the links in the description. So until the next one, have a great day everybody.